The Wizard of Oz is something that came out a long time ago, and a lot of people talk about The Wizard of Oz, but I like The Wiz, so I'm going to reference Dorothy from The Wiz, not the Dorothy from Wizard of Oz, if that's okay.
Fine.
Thank you. In one of your videos, you said that Dorothy had everything she needed to get home the whole time, and she just didn't know it. And one of the things you recognized that you had what you needed the whole time to get home. And I wanted to understand from you, like, what home means to you as it relates to that in your journey of being a mermaid and being this positive force in your life and other people's lives.
Okay. I feel like you pulled like a deep cut of my own videos. So I'm like, I said that. But I think home to me means a couple of things, right? Like, I think home in one way is just that peaceful center, right? Like really sitting in your I am and just still. But I think in reference to Dorothy and becoming a mermaid and like the work that I do, it's like almost quieting all the you should or you could or you whatever, and just like really going like, what do I want to do? What do I want to be doing? What's bringing me joy? And realizing that, yeah, like that's always probably largely been with you. And we grow and we evolve and hopefully we become better versions of ourselves. But a lot of who we are is pretty consistent when we turn off who everybody else wants us to be.
Was it a challenge for you to turn that off of what other people wanted you to be? Or were you always tapped into that?
That's a good question. I think in some ways it's an ongoing challenge. I think it's easier for me than other people, but I still think it's an ongoing challenge because our whole world is designed to tell you what other people think you should be doing. I mean, a friend and I were working on, we're recording this in January. We were working on like, just our plans for the year. And like, I wrote out some goals and she's like, well, you don't have any goals in this category. And my reflex was like, well, what goals do you think I should have in this category? Yeah. What? Like, no, like she can't tell me what my goals are. Like that doesn't truly make sense. But there's so much input of you should do this, you should do that. There's so much created to make us draw comparisons between ourselves and always be wanting something different. So in some way, yeah, it's an ongoing challenge. I always have to like kind of check in, like, is this me or is this what other people, are trying to put on me and I'm just assuming? In other ways, I'm a rebel. So
I like that.
But being a rebel is hard too, because sometimes you do what people don't want you to do just because you're being rebellious, but they're still controlling you. And so then it's like, is this what I want to do? Or am I just being oppositional? And so you still have to like check in. So it's an ongoing journey, but I do think it's a little easier for me than other people.
These kind of relationships that get disturbed when we don't take the time to know what it is to sing, to know how to get close to the mic again. But it's singing doesn't make it happen, or maybe.
Well, the person that you guys are listening to is a rebel. She just told you. She's a wife. She's a masseuse. You see how I use that, masseuse? Did you like that?
Yeah, yeah.
A mermaid, a human being, a woman, a beautiful light that I have been fortunate enough to meet and have as a guest on the show. Chè Monique, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very honored and pleased to be here and glad we are finally here right now.
This has been, just so you guys know, this woman was on a Netflix documentary titled MerPeople, right? It was MerPeople.
Yes, MerPeople.
I didn't even know that there were people out there living their lives as mermaids. And when I was going through and looking at the list on Netflix, I was like, oh, no. I gotta see what this is about. And I clicked on it, and you and a lot of other Black folks were highlighted in extremely prominent ways. And when I looked and saw that you were in the DMV area, I was like, well, shit, what we waiting on? And I reached out to you, and you were so gracious enough to agree to come on. But I was moved by your story, by your journey. I didn't feel they went into a lot of like personal stuff, which wasn't the aim, I feel, of the documentary. But it definitely made me want to learn more about like you and like how you got to that point of filming that documentary and all of that. So that was a lot. How did you come to become or want to become a mermaid?
Well, I was 3 or 4 and the Little Mermaid came out and she's swimming around underwater and it's magical and it's colorful and I've always loved to swim and I've kind of always wanted to do it. Now, even as a little kid, like I didn't think it was a actual like career path per se, but like it has been a just fun fantasy, truly in some ways my whole life. I don't remember not knowing how to swim. And when I was like elementary aged, when you were in my neighborhood, once you were 9, you could take a swim test. And if you passed the swim test, you could go to the pool without your parents. And by the time, I guess myself and my brother both hit that like old enough and passed the test, that was probably the best summers for my mom, because she was officially off duty. But, yeah, I just remember being a little kid, being at the pool like all day. We would ride our bikes to the pool and we would stay so long. My mom would be like, I'll come pick you up. Just call me when the pool is closing or whatever. And, I'm old enough that we'd like call collect, and be like, do the mom, I'm ready.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was like, it's as far as I remember, all day, every day in the summer, just hanging out in the pool, swimming, playing all the pool games. But some of those pool games were definitely mermaid. So in some ways it's been there forever. The beach has always been my happy place. Like I love nothing more than just like floating around, riding the waves.
Have you always gravitated towards water? Like has that been like a safe space for you?
Yeah, and I think I'm lucky generationally, because even when I think about going to the beach as a little kid, like I got to just hang out in the ocean by myself, like in a way that like.
That sounds so negligent now in 2023.
Right.
Yeah.
And my mom's umbrella was a watermelon. And most beach umbrellas are striped in one way or another. They're striped. And so it was like in a sea of striped umbrellas, I would just keep my eye on the watermelon and the tide starts carrying you and you start drifting and it's like, okay, that watermelon's looking a little far. I better swim back. And I'd like get myself back and maybe get a little snack and then I'd go back out and drift off again and come back. And it's like, yeah, from today's perspective, when I think about how I am with my niece, I'm like, she's never more than 4 feet away from me. But I definitely was like 2 blocks down in the ocean chilling by myself. Like,
times are different for sure.
Living my best little kid life, getting beat up by the waves, like snot all over the place. Like, oh, that was fun. Let me go back. Like,
were you opening your eyes and all that in the salt water back then?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Not on purpose.
Gotcha. Do you remember the movie Splash?
So, confession, I just watched Splash for the first time like a year ago.
That's how I got introduced to mermaids.
Okay.
To Splash.
Okay.
I loved that movie. Daryl Hannah. And what's the guy's name?
Was it?
Tom Hanks.
Okay.
I love Daryl Hannah. Daryl Hannah and Olivia Newton-John. Those were like my crushes back in when I was a little kid. There weren't a lot of black women on TV, so I fell in love with Olivia Newton-John and like Daryl Hannah. Not to say there's anything wrong with it, but I love that movie. A year ago.
Yeah.
So the Merc community, you see, she. I'm just kidding.
No, it's interesting because there's generations. There's splash mermaids, there's little mermaid mermaids, and then there's like Mako mermaids and H2O mermaids. Those are like things that came out once I was grown.
Okay.
So like you kind of can honestly eyeball, at least as somebody like Gen X, a millennial, or Gen Z, based on like when you say like, what was your mermaid movie?
Gotcha.
That kind of goes, oh, okay. 20s, 30s, 40s up. Like you can kind of guess just based on that.
When did you realize there was a mermaid community that you wanted to be a part of?
I first realized there was a mermaid community maybe about 12-ish years ago. I'll say I'm still a member. I don't know if I'm active anymore, but I never wanted to leave, of the DC Girly Show, which is a burlesque troupe. And we used to be in the Pride Parade every year. And one year the theme was, what's your fantasy? And like without a beat, I was like, mermaid. And I really started, it kind of like opened something up for me. And I started like researching, and like, I made a walking tale for the parade, but I was like, I want to know more about this. I want to know, and so that's when I really got a pulse that like, oh, there is a community, there's people who do this, but it was still mostly like latex and silicone tails that were costing more than I made in a month as a nanny. And the community was still pretty small and relatively inaccessible, but that's when I first became aware of it.
Okay. When did you choose to get involved?
So around 2018, I saw this plus size Latina woman in an Ariel shirt. And growing up, I didn't get Ariel stuff. Like I loved the movie, I watched it, I used to swim like her. But my mom was really big on making sure I had Black representation in the house. I had Black dolls, like books were different, but like any like thing I was gonna hold and play with and whatnot was gonna look like me to some extent. And so I didn't get princess t-shirts and stuff. And so I saw this woman and I was like, oh, I'm an adult and I can buy myself an Ariel shirt if I want to. And then I was like, but it would be really radical if somebody who looked more like Ariel had a shirt with a mermaid who looked more like me. And I was like, let's play with that. And so I got the idea to start Society of Fat Mermaids. And we started out with t-shirts representing like our kind of original squad. I had an artist I know locally do 7 different kind of plus size mermaids of different ethnicities, and I just put them on shirts with leggings. I'm currently wearing mermaid scale leggings, but I didn't even know that was a thing at the time. So like I envisioned almost toddler clothes for adults. So it'd be like, here's this fat Black mermaid. And then on the leggings, it was just like that same mermaid, but in a pattern. Because I'm like, this is just fun, quirky, comfy clothes. And so then I was like, well, I shouldn't sell something to a community and not be part of it. And so I, from there, got involved in the local mer community. And I think being in the DMV is so amazing for like any extracurricular activities you want to get involved in as an adult, because whatever people are passionate about, they just really go hard here. And I feel like people have kids later, they have pretty decent jobs. And so things that are like fringe activities, I feel like in other parts of the country, like they just explode here. Like it's a great place to be a little weird. It's a great place to be kind of nerdy, because like people will put their energy, they will leave that like buttoned up government job and then go do their thing and really go all in. And so we have a great pod here called Metro Merfolk. So I joined Metro Merfolk and things kind of went from there.
So you saw this picture, this t-shirt, and was like, I'm an adult, I want that shirt. And then you immediately converted that to, nah, I want somebody to have a shirt on that looked like me on the shirt.
Yeah.
That sounds like a very culturally conscious thought to have immediately after one that wasn't so culturally conscious. Have you always been sensitive to, well, it sounds like you have, since your mom was saying you got to have this representation.
Yeah, like that's how I was raised. It really wasn't a choice. Like that's just, how I was raised. And so it's interesting, right? Because culturally we are having this like awakening of consciousness, and people I think are really struggling with it and making things a lot, in my mind, harder than they need to be. But that's because like, I don't know, my parents were amazing and really smart people and managed the duality of being like Black people in America, I feel like, fairly well. And so, you know, I see people struggling like, it's the 4th of July. I mean, Julie, like, and I'm like, bruh, like,
Just chill.
can we just have fireworks with a barbecue because it's fun? Because that's how I was raised. Like, literally, we'd be on our way to a barbecue to blow stuff up because my father thinks it's fun, and he'd be telling us about Frederick Douglass's "What to the Slave is the 4th of July." Like, you can do both, and you can do both like literally at the same time. We'd have our Thanksgiving dinner, and then we would literally, as a family, talk about how folks came over here and, you know, basically destroyed and stole everything that the indigenous people had. And that would just be normal conversation. There was no like, oh, we got to boycott things. Why are we not going to sit and gather with our family and talk about what we're grateful for? Like, why would we not do that? But let's also talk about the foundations of this alleged holiday and like who was injured and who did that injuring. But like, for me, for my whole life, it's always like that duality has always been there. Thanks to my parents. And so it's really interesting to watch people struggle, because it's like, y'all are really overcomplicating this. Like, we can't un-America America, but we also don't have to lie to ourselves about what it is. Like, we can do both.
Sounds like you had some awesome parents.
I do, yes.
I'm sorry, have some awesome parents. Now, you go out, you get involved in the mermaid community. You're Chè Monique. How was Chè Monique received?
Very well, because I wasn't received as Chè Monique. I was received as the Society of Fat Mermaids. And when you say the Society of anything, people assume there's like thousands of you. And like, it's really cool because now there are.
Wow.
But like, at first it was me. But people like, so you had fat merfolk who were just like, I need this. Like, oh my goodness, like, I've been waiting for this. And then you had people who didn't even know that was a dream that they could have, being like, yes, I'm in. And then you had other people like, oh, I guess we better listen to these fat people because there's thousands of them. But again, at first it was just me. And so it was a very lovely and like welcoming reception. And the mer community, for the most part, is a very inclusive community. It's weird because I came to mermaiding from burlesque. And so like the burlesque community is inclusive and radical. Mermaids are not as radical, but they are inclusive. And they're like willing to catch up. They're just not as far along in their like awareness of the larger world. But by and large, yeah, I was received very well. And my intention was to kind of just be a quiet part of the community. And one day it snowed, and I had a local photographer friend who I knew from burlesque, and snow photo shoots are a big deal both for mermaids and burlesque performers. I don't know, there's something about going and being half naked and freezing your tush off or your tail off that is like a thing. And so my friend's like, hey, do you want to shoot? And I'm like, yeah. And at the time I was like, should I bring my tail? And like I wanted to, like it was kind of like I wanted my friend to give me permission, but nonetheless it wasn't the assumption that I would. It was like, should I bring it? And they were like, yeah. And we took a photo in like the Crystal City Water Park on a fountain, and it went viral, or so I thought, because like 3,000 people liked it.
Oh, that's viral to me. Yeah.
It was viral to me too. Yeah. Now I had a video that 75 million people saw on TikTok last summer.
75 million?
75 million. My best friend was on her way to Ghana, and I was like, dude, that's more people than are in the country you're going to. Like, what? But at the time, 3,000 people, I was like, whoa. And so that's when I realized that like, based on the comments, like as a fat, Black, I'm queer, but not visibly so. But the photographer like very much coded like the captioning as like very queer. So I'm like fat, black, I'm queer, got like natural hair. I don't color my grays. And like you're hearing from people who sit at different parts of those intersections. And I'm not like asking for permission. Like, it's not like, it's just like, here I am, like in a glorious state. And it wasn't apologetic, but it also wasn't like, yes, it's about being fat because I'm always fat, but it wasn't about being fat, you know? And reading the comments was like, oh, like I physically represent something for a lot of different people. Like there's something here, let's lean into it. And so going into mermaiding, I just thought I was selling merch and supporting other people and like encouraging tailmakers to be more inclusive. And that's when I was like, oh, like Mermaid Chè Monique, she's a thing. People want her. Here we are. So.
That's amazing. I got to process a little bit. Give me like 15 seconds for what, because you just said a gang of shit and I want to make sure I got it right. Takes a lot of confidence to get half naked to do anything, in my opinion, regardless of what your body type looks like. Obviously you are, let me go all the way back. You're saying fat often. And I want to make sure that I'm being respectful.
Yes, you can call me fat. We're here.
Okay.
Like I said, you can call me fat. You can call me fat.
So from a body shaming standpoint, you're not. Is that one of those things where you have to ask the person? Is it to or like what's appropriate for that?
I think it's like constantly changing, right? Because like on the one hand, like my official argument is fat is just a descriptor. It doesn't and shouldn't carry any judgment value, right? Like right. I'm a 300+ pound woman. Like, and it's interesting when people are like, oh, you're not fat. You're big boned. You're strong. I'm like, I am strong. Oh, you're beautiful. I am that. Also, I'm fat. I mean, technically, I guess officially I have a lot of fat, right? Like, I guess that is what is very technical, but, there is a movement that I am a part of that says we just want the word fat to be a neutral descriptor.
Okay.
Now, again, you can't un-America, you can't unworld the world. That word is very loaded for many, many people. I remember the first time I called myself fat in front of my niece, and she was maybe 3 or 4, and she's like, that's a bad word. And I think honestly in her household, it's a very bad word.
Okay, I got you.
And I'm like, no, I mean, we can not say that I'm fat, but like, you can see me. Like, but because there is so much weight on that word, and because so many people have been bullied, abused with that word, I think that, what I would recommend, like if you hear someone self-refer to themselves as fat a lot, maybe do like you just did. Like you refer to yourself as fat, is it okay if I do too? And they'll probably be like, yeah, because they're, because once you hit the point where you're comfortable self-referring, you probably also want the word used, because there's like a weird amount of like shame around the word. It's like very bizarre because you like literally can't hide it. But
I feel like we're doing that with a lot of other types of words. And I am super sensitive to being respectful of other people. And I appreciate when they make room for my ignorance, because I'm not trying to be intentionally harmful. And I think my programming right now is such to where I'm very uncomfortable using the word fat. It's
just say like people of size. That's kind of like the like it feels very PC, right? Like people of size or larger body,
plus size.
Okay. And yeah.
But I appreciate you just. I feel like I understand the logic behind the use of the word, because I feel like it's intentional in what your attempt to do is, which is take the shame out of the word. I mean, the
shame and negativity. I want it to be a neutral descriptor. Like, oh, that's a thin woman, that's a fat woman. Like, and not that now if that's a joke, we know the punchline's gonna be on the fat woman. Like just,
Yeah.
that's a thin woman, that's a fat woman. You know, I want it to be neutral.
Okay. So you started in burlesque.
Yes.
What is burlesque?
Burlesque is the art of the tease. Some people say it's nerdy stripping.
I have never heard it. Nerdy stripping.
Nerdy stripping. Stripping with a storyline. Like kind of old school strip tease, you know, the long gloves, the feather boas.
Provocatively dressed?
Yeah.
Do you remove clothes?
Yes.
Okay.
Generally, like the full definition of burlesque is very broad, but like when you think like Dita Von Teese, maybe like usually people think like vintage kind of stripping, like though that is a very narrow definition of burlesque, and burlesque is a lot bigger than that. That'll usually at least kind of get your head in the right direction.
Okay.
I would say 95% of burlesque involves some sort of stripping, and there should be some sort of like storyline or like tease going with it as well.
I feel like there's a connection that you have with your body. That is demonstrated in the choice to do burlesque and then to move over to mermaiding. Because those seem like very, you got to be naked a lot from what it sounds like. I'm trying to think of another way to say it. And it's, and like is there a relationship that you have with your body and connecting to that and like being free in that? I feel like there's something more than just those two. There's too much symmetry there, I think, to a degree. Am I tripping?
I don't think you're tripping. I think it's interesting. It's definitely interesting doing mermaiding after burlesque, because sometimes people like come to me and they'll be like, well, how are you comfortable in your body in this way? Or how, you know, what is your family, like, how do you get your family comfortable with this? And I'm like, well, here's the thing. I spent like 12 years taking my clothes off for money and not enough of it. And we kind of had to be hush hush about it because my mom worked in education. We can tell people I'm a mermaid. So my family is thrilled. Like, you know, for a lot of people, that's like the like radical thing to do. But for me, it's like, oh, okay, well, at least she's keeping her top on this time. You know, like it's easier, but that's because I started doing burlesque when I was like 21 or 22. Honestly, I think burlesque was just like a fun way for me to like possibly figure out my relationship with my body, and explore like, okay, like, I mean, I've been fat my whole life now. It's interesting because like people's body, like not just my personal body changes over time, but like also like average bodies change over time. And so like, while I was like the biggest kid in elementary school, now like little kids are bigger than they were then, you know, but for the time I've been big my whole life, except for when I was first born. I was very small when I was first born. But let's say from 2 on, I was always big, and I've always heard other people's, you know, thoughts and feelings and opinions on my body. And I guess we have to back it up because I stumbled into belly dance when I was like 15 or 16. And like belly dance professionally when I was in college. And so it was like belly dance and then burlesque and then mermaiding. I do think particularly the belly dance and burlesque was in part me like just maybe being rebellious, like this is a body that's supposed to be hidden and here it is. B, just figuring it out, like figuring out my relationship with myself and whatnot. And the cool thing about all three, but I would say especially belly dancing and burlesque, is they also just put me in community of like really cool people. And the belly dance class was for adults, and I like went through like a bunch of hoops to try to like get permission to sign up at 16 because I wasn't 18. And it was really, really funny because like I got like the instructor's permission, and when it came time to do whatever, I realized like nobody's carding you. It was like at the rec center. It's like, nobody's carding you, just lie. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, it's not a nightclub. It's the neighborhood rec.
Yeah.
But being 16 in a belly dance class, it was mostly women and 30 plus. And so it was just a really beautiful space I stumbled into. And I belly danced through college and was, always the youngest person in a class. And it was just a really cool community I ended up in because of that.
And you don't, okay, so like the connections with that is just great. I mean, it's beautiful. I think it's the rebel thing I think you were talking about before. And then also the going home, like always having what you need and not necessarily know you had it. And you come to the world with this body, with this personality, with this smile, with this face, with these attributes that, I mean, you're not your body, but it's a part of how you move through the world, and embracing it in a way that I feel that you've done through belly dancing, through burlesque, through Mermaid, seems like a way of owning who you are despite the social cues of what you should be doing with that body, which is covering it up. Is what I'm saying making sense?
It's totally making sense. I think owning and discovering and figuring it out, right? Like, it's weird being like a teenage girl, which I guess is who I was when I started, belly dancing, because in some ways all the external programming is simultaneously telling you like what you need to do to be an object of desire. And then they're telling you to do absolutely nothing with that desire, right? Like your own or anybody else's. And then to be like fat, they're telling you, oh, and you'll never be desirable, right? And so then there's like belly dance, which is like a 15 or 16-year-old. And so interestingly enough, I discovered belly dance there's these twins. I think they were on an episode of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. They're Vina and Nina, the belly twins. And they had belly dance fitness workout videos. And I have been handed exercise videos my entire life. I even had, and I hope it's in the collection, they got for me in, I guess it had to be the 80s, a Miss Piggy workout album, like record, like, okay. And while I do not have any memories of doing the Miss Piggy workout, just the fact that I'm a toddler basically with but it's the 80s, right? Like everybody needs to be skinny, right? And you don't give Coke to toddlers, so you give them Miss Piggy workout albums so that they can like work on their fitness, I guess. But I mean, that's kind of what it is to be a fat girl. Like, I'm a toddler with a workout record. Like, what? And so I always had.
You didn't internalize any of that?
Hell yeah, I did.
Okay, because the way you're saying it, I'm okay. I got you.
Absolutely.
I got you.
And so, yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I don't know if there's any journey that you've ever made it to the other side of and you kind of forget how bad it was. I think even healing, like, so possibly even with your leg, you might like be like once you remember how to walk, you forget like, oh my gosh, there was a day I could barely get out of bed. Like, it's like once you're on the other side, you forget. And
yeah,
I spent much of my life thinking I was 50 pounds from this, 20 pounds from this. Like, oh, if I lose this amount of weight, then I can blah, blah, blah. Maybe if I lose weight, I can da, 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 da. Like, and at some point I woke up, but no, I did really cool things. I did really interesting things, but I was always X amount of pounds from being worthy of, honestly, existence was like the core belief, right? Like, it was always like, oh, well, maybe if I lose weight, I can, and you can fill in the blank. And so sometimes I forget like how much that was a part of me. But yeah, I mean, I can't even say diet culture was a part of my life. Diet culture was my life probably solidly for the first 25 years of it. Yeah.
So you're in, like, I feel like you're you, and I don't want to project that. Let me ask the question. Being where you are now in your life and doing all the things that you've done, you're married, so you found love, so that was bullshit.
Yeah, nobody's gonna love a fat girl. Go on.
So that was bullshit. You're not gonna be desirable. That was bullshit. You can't do this and that and the third. That was bullshit. You're proving that it's all bullshit, right? How do you handle the voices?
Mine or other people's?
Both.
Mine, I had to teach that it was bullshit. And I did a pretty good job about it. It started, I think, when I was in high school-ish. My mom had a lot of mirrors in the house. And just spent, I think like a lot of people do at certain ages, like a lot of time just looking at myself in the mirror. But weirdly, I feel like I got desensitized to my own body. So like, I can't even say that like I initially like came to love my body, but I think I literally just like, you know, I don't know, like poke your stomach and it jiggles and you're like, ah, and you do it enough times and it stops shocking you or whatever. I tell people who are struggling with their bodies, I'm like, close your eyes and touch yourself, particularly if there's like a little extra of you, because like you might not like how fat looks, but I don't know anybody who doesn't like how it feels. It feels good. And so the voices now are more subtle, but I just call them out. I call them out like I try to call out other people in my life, if that makes sense. And I try, and I question, you have to question, like, what is that? Where is that coming from? What does that mean? Do you believe that? And you have to do that with like any like systemic bias. So,
good point.
I remember I was at the beach and there was this fat guy on a bicycle. And I guess I don't usually see fat guys on a bicycle, but something about seeing this guy on this bicycle. And what was interesting is like, he had all the gear. So to me, that meant like he was serious, right? Because like sometimes somebody's like riding a bike, but this looked like a biker, but like also this was like 350, 400 pound biker. And so my brain kind of did a does not compute thing. And I was like, well, hey, founder of the Society of Fat Mermaids, like what's going on here? And that was not an out loud conversation, but I just sat with myself and dissected that like what are you saying? You know, and I just had to ask myself those questions. But, you know, if another ism comes up, gosh, like weird stuff comes up that makes me confront my anti-Blackness all the time, you know, and it's like, okay, you know, racist in class as much. Let's play with this. And so I just call those voices out. They're and I've done a good job. So like it's not as much, but what's there is kind of deep because it's not the like superficial stuff, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so we just sit down, we talk about it, we unpack it, and you know, is that true? What is this really saying or showing or demonstrating? And I just go from there.
I've been wanting to, I don't know if it's a thing, and I'm not trying to diagnose myself, but I feel like sometimes I have body dysmorphia. And I was this real skinny kid, and I got really big, like 250 pounds. 260 maybe, even for a while. I was eating a lot of Taco Bell and drinking 40s, you know, doing all this old kind of dumb shit, and I got really big. And then when I lost the weight, when I look in the mirror now, I still see like an obese person.
Okay.
And the only time I don't see an obese person when I look in the mirror is when I'm fasting or when I'm putting myself through like an extreme dietary regimen of some sort. And I'll start to feel a little bit better about myself. The voices or the images that I see are starting to shift, but it's something that I've been, you know, working with for a long time, and I'm very self-conscious about the way that I look, and it's taken me a while to kind of like come into accepting me who I am, regardless of what the numbers say, you know, regardless of how my clothes feel, regardless of what is too tight or whatever the case may be. And that's an internal struggle that me having as a dude, that I can't be the only dude that thinks that way at certain times about themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think body image and like eating stuff for men, in some ways it's like, I feel like more complex because it's like less okay to talk about it, right? And I feel like there's maybe less, and again, like I feel like all of these things we're making progress on, but there's like less archetypes of like an ideal male body. Like at least like, you know, there's like kind of athletic women, and there's, you know, like, oh, there's like, they're all very hard to attain, you know, then there's like the Instagram, like curvy girl, or, but there's also like the super skinny girl. There's a couple different archetypes, and, you know, what is most dominant changes from time to time, and like whoever has this one wishes they had that one and whatever. But like for a while it was like, oh, if you're gonna be a man, you need to look like Superman, you know, and, you know, are you too skinny? Are you too fat? I will say most like fat people I know, obese, that word, hate. Like,
really?
Yeah.
Why? Tell me about it.
I think it's like a pseudo medical term. So it's like, it gets like weaponized in a really specific way. Like like I hear, like it gets used either, I find, two ways, and I'm definitely not the expert on this. But one is like this quasi-medical, right, thing. Like it's like, kind of sounds more medically. So it's like, oh, they're obese, that's not good for them. Like that's bad. Like, and it's in the like medical books, you know, like obesity and like severe obesity and whatever. And like, but then there's this like, I also hear people go, I mean, he was fat. I mean, he was really fat. He was obese. So like, it's either used in this like pseudo medical way to like kind of, I think, control and shame people. And like even within like medical terminology, it's like, okay, so we're just making these measures based on BMI, and then we say that's bad. And there are, sure, correlations between obesity and other things, but like no real proven causations. But we've just decided, like, if your BMI is this, you're this, and so this is what we're gonna do. I follow this doctor whose like Insta handle is the Fat Doctor. Yeah, and they're just brilliant. We're both in a documentary that hopefully will be available widely soon, but it's called Embodied. And at some point, the director is like, explain to us BMI. And they go, oh, it's bullshit. Can I say that? Bullshit? And then they go and give their like doctor answer. And it's such just a delightful, honest moment. But it's also funny now that I have been in a lot of like different film projects, because there's times when like you say stuff and you don't actually intend for it to like make the cut. You just have to say it. And I feel like watching it, it felt like, this is my honest answer. I just got to get this off my breath. Okay, well, the BMI was developed and blah, 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 blah. You know, but the, you know, director decided to include it in the edit. And so it's just like this like really real moment, but I've been following them. They're Dr. Asher, either Laramie or Larmy. And I think they're British, and they're trans, and they're fat. And they, you know, they had a post the other day, and they're like, you know, if you go to the doctor and they tell you to lose weight, but they don't tell you like the side effects of like losing weight, you know, of a diet or your exercise regimen, like they're not treating you appropriately. Because if they would tell you the side effects of a medication, like why won't they tell you like the side effects to your health of like yo-yo dieting, which is what most people end up doing. So yeah, but I do think that in some ways, a lot of like psycho-emotional, like just humanness stuff, like I feel like in some ways, like men don't get space to be human culturally. And that's for me where it's like, you know, we talk about systems of oppression, and we talk about the people who are like, you know, at the intersections or like on the bottom of it, but like they don't serve anybody. It's like, sure, like, you know, patriarchy, I guess, makes things better for men allegedly, but like it also like does a disservice to men. Huge. And I think all these systems do. So,
and a lot of times I feel I've been in instances now where even when I'm talking to women about that, there's very little empathy extended because all they can see are the ways in which I benefit and all the ways in which they don't. And they don't account for all the innumerable ways in which men suffer under it as well in all of these ways. So there's like the lens of empathy and the lens of connection is just not there at all, because it's like, motherfucker, I don't care. Like this, you a dude, it's patriarchy and all of it is wrapped into you, so you go fix it. And it's like, hold on. We would be better equipped to work together to go fix it than for you to just go tell me to go fix it, because it also requires me to continue to exist the way that I do, which is under some level of subjugation for it to persist. So anyway, we can talk about that stuff forever.
Yes, I will just say that I agree. I think we could all use more empathy. I don't know what's going on, but I think we're all, and the broad all, and obviously also hashtag not all of us or whatever, but there's just like, it seems like folks are just getting like more and more guarded, more and more like just walled off, more and more like drawing lines between folks. And yeah, a little empathy could go a long way and is necessary to solve anything, truthfully.
Yeah. Now, I did notice that there is some level of competition in the mermaid space. Is it cutthroat, or what is it like when you're in it and going after these jobs and getting access to these things and being a part of these different circles?
I think it really depends on who you are and what these things mean to you. I wouldn't say I think it's cutthroat. I mean, there's really not. So like mermaiding is new, relatively speaking, and we're still, at the point where we're still having to do, consumer education, like, and be like, these are mermaids and this is how we can make your X, Y, or Z more interesting, or this is the value we can bring. Like, we're very, by and large, new. And so there's not a lot of jobs. And so you can say, like, numbers wise, sure, things are cutthroat. It's also seasonal work. So like, there are very, very few like full-time performers. And so for a lot of people, this is just a fun thing to do, but for some people it's their life. And sometimes that can clash, because sometimes someone for whom this is a fun thing to do, it might be easier because, maybe they can buy the tail that has the look that gets them the job, and somebody else might be trying to like bootstrap and do this full time, and they don't have access to the same amount of stuff, and so they don't get the same opportunities. Pageantry and mermaiding, I've had the opportunity to judge 2 pageants now, and they were actually within a few months of each other. The pageants themselves sold me on pageants. I was very skeptical of pageants, especially like coming in, starting the Society of Fat Mermaids, really kind of pushing like accessibility and equity, and I'm like, where does a pageant fit into this? But again, if a pageant's just a fun thing to do, like, why not? And it can motivate people sometimes to, just push themselves to that next level. All the pageants have some degree of like a, I don't want to say philanthropic, but like a do good stuff arm, and so you can't win a pageant if you're not, doing some sort of environmental or humanitarian thing. And so I think sometimes the pageant can motivate people to be a little more active in their causes. And I think, like, I know a lot of people who like to be a part of pageants because it's like, if I'm at the grocery store and I'm wearing my sash, it's just a good conversation starter, and it's an easy way to like spread the good word, whatever the good word is.
So that thing on the Netflix documentary that was on the boat, that was a pageant, right?
That was a pageant, yeah.
Okay. So there was a lot of camaraderie in that. Like people were rooting for one another. They even made room for another guy, I think, who I can't remember all of the specifics on how, that felt like that was more supportive and just like a fun type of thing to where it wasn't as competitive.
I think it depends on who it was. Some people were very, very passionate and competitive, and some people were like, I'm playing mermaid on the inaugural voyage of a Virgin cruise ship. I already won.
Yeah. Please watch this documentary, y'all. It's called MerPeople. It's still on Netflix. It is an amazing. You will connect with at least 2 people on there. And Chè Monique's one of them. The other one is the brother Blix. Hey, brother, I would love to have you on. You are light, you are love, you are inspiration. I don't know you and I love you. And I would love to talk to you and get to know your story, man, because you really shined, man, just in every episode or every scene that he was in. Same with you. It was just beautiful. And you stay in contact with Blix?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, Blix just did, they've done a lot of artwork for me, but they do like mer illustrations. They call them mermies. They just did 2 new ones for me since I have the new tail. And so I have a new look. And so I'm like, I need new stickers. I need new branding. And so I just got the artwork. I haven't even really shared it yet.
Okay.
But yeah, Blix is awesome.
Let's talk about these tails, because it is intricate. What is a mermaid tail? How much do they cost? What's involved? How many do people typically have? I want to know all about the tail, because I guess the detail is in the tail. Did you like that? I'm kidding.
Love it.
I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Okay. What is a mermaid tail? It is literally what it sounds like. It is some sort of, it's either usually made out of like a swimsuit material, a scuba material, or now silicone. Kind of one piece, so you put both legs in it, and it has a fin. The fin part we call a fluke at the bottom. What's most important if you're going to swim in a mermaid tail is that you need a really good quality monofin in it, which nobody knows. Going in, they're just like, I want a mermaid tail. And people will go and buy some poorly made thing from whatever overseassite.com. And I did the same thing when I first started. So like, I also didn't know. And mine said monofin included. I thought the monofin's job, what I thought was just to keep the fin open and make it look cute, right? Like it's just supposed to hold the space, because otherwise, if you think of your 2 legs together, and then there's a bigger part that fans out, like the, a little end of a fishtail or whatever. If there's nothing holding it open, it looks stupid. Just drag them behind you. So I thought that was the whole purpose of the monofin. When you're swimming, the monofin is where your power is coming from. It is not safe to swim with your legs bound without a good quality monofin made by somebody reputable.
Okay.
And so now it's really cool. And I came in mermaiding at a great time, because I came in kind of as more and more things were actually being made for merfolk, and like I didn't have to do the like creative DIY, figure it out. I came in when there were options. So you can get a quality tail from like a company on the low end called like Fin Fun, or I think they're called Suntails, and you can get a tail and fin. Usually together, you can probably get one for like right under $100. So let's say like $80. And you can go all the way up and spend like 10 grand on a silicone tail if you want. They run the gamut. So the Fin Fun, swim tails, type tails, usually they're like swimsuit spandex with patterns printed on them. Kind of the next level up is like a scuba knit. It's a heavier fabric, not necessarily going to be sheer, might have a bigger fin. People love big, huge, flowy fins. Might have extra fins, you know, you might want some hip fins or some heel fins are very popular because they can kind of hide the look of your ankles and like that transition, so they can make you look more realistic. A lot of people want a dorsal fin up the back, so you can like add all these fins. And then, so the scuba knit, and you can get those from like your Taylor, who was featured, Finfolk Productions.
Was that the woman who made yours on the show and presented it to you?
Mermaid made mine. So she made me a silicone tail. So I've seen videos of her making like the mold for that tail, and she took a spoon and like sculpted all these.
Are you serious?
Yeah, like a huge piece of clay, and she's got a spoon, and she's just like sculpting with a little spoon to make the mold that she then poured the silicone in that became my tail. And so Mermaid Carriel made that.
That was beautiful.
Thank you. So that's my new look now. And so, yeah, the tails run, from under $100 to several thousands of dollars on the high end. And how many do people own? There's a lot of tail collectors out there. So I think it's pretty normal, I would say, to own at least 8. And I know people who own dozens. I got lucky because I just created a belief that served my pocketbook, which was if I grew it, it shouldn't change every week. And so where some people, you know, a tail maker will be like, this is our tail of the month, or I'm releasing this, and people are like, I gotta buy it, or oh, I gotta get it before it sells out. I'm just like, this is who I am. This is what I look like. And so financially that has served me because it has helped me resist the urge to get, you know, every new tail that comes out.
You requires a lot of effort. I mean, one of the things I've recognized in the show is that it is a skill to perform and put these joints on. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of, like, when you're judging, there's certain things you're looking for in terms of like the motion, how you flip, and all of those stuff. It's a lot more technical than just a layman would truly understand just looking at it.
Yeah. And one of the things I love about it is the more I know about it, the more I am amazed by good performers. So like, I don't know, there's always this fear that like, once you know how the sausage is made, you know, it's not cool anymore. But for me, like, the more I know, just the more people blow my mind, because it's like, I understand everything they're doing while smiling underwater with their eyes open, you know. Like.
How long can you hold your breath?
The longest I've held my breath was about 2.5 minutes.
Wow.
I was like in a training session, so I was like very supported. I fantasize about getting up to 5 minutes. I don't usually time myself, but sometimes like as I'm like editing videos and it's like, oh, I was only under really 35 seconds there. So I'm working on it. So that's one of my goals. We're talking in January, like hoping by the end of the year to have videos, you know, that are like 90 seconds long and I'm underwater the whole time. That's like a goal.
Speaking of goals, you went in with this idea for Black representation that kind of looked more like you. When you got in there, when you got into the space and you really started developing, are there things that you've learned about yourself through the process that you didn't know before going in?
I don't know if there's things that I've learned about myself, but I've definitely just learned a lot through the process. Actually, I do think I've learned, I've gotten a different understanding of like my leadership skills, and a different understanding of kind of like the power of my voice. it's been really, well, it was, now I'm kind of used to it, but it was really surprising how the community responded to me and listened to me and heard me and you know, kind of like juxtaposing that, like, I mean, I know who I am, but how do they know who I am? So it's like, okay, well, they don't. I'm telling them who I am. So like, that's kind of just made me have to like see how I like navigate in spaces, and I've had an appreciation for like my maturity and understanding of the world. Like, there are interesting interpersonal dynamics in mermaiding, and I think who I am has helped me navigate that well.
What since it's kind of expanded and more from what your intentions are, like now that we talked before a little bit about before we started filming, like why you stay and what are you doing it for and all of that kind of stuff. It's definitely more than just getting in big ass pots of water or with a tail, right? It's a lot more than that, and I think it's explain to me and folks like just what that more means to you.
To me, it's about freedom, and it's weird because in some ways I'm like, I mean, can you think of anything more absurd in some ways than like 350-pound middle-aged black mermaid? Like what? Like, that's just so random in some ways, but it's like, okay, here I am. I exist, just doing my thing. So you go exist, do your thing, like whatever your thing is. And yeah, like all those shoulds, you know, you should go to this school, you should date this person, you should get this job, you should do whatever, you know, you should wear this cologne. Like, all these shoulds are just bombarding us like all the time. And I want people to like do what they want. I want people to do what feels good. I do what I call like motivational videos, and I'm often giving little pep talks, and really the core of it is like, you're enough, you're worthy, and you're valid. And like, yes, I'm a mermaid and you are a podcaster, and both of those things are valid, and like, do you. Like, I don't know, I just want to like kind of break assumptions that people have about themselves, about others, and just create space for people to kind of like if we could break down some walls and just like build up some, like, I don't want to say positive connections because that's too simple, but just open up possibilities for people, and like safety. And when I say safety, I mean like feeling safe in yourself, like just feeling comfortable in yourself and trusting yourself. And I struggle because like I don't filter my comments. I do get a ton of negative comments. They're generally all some variation of the fact that I'm a whale, which is like really interesting because they're like redundant. It's just like weird because it's like like I'm not even like, it's just like they're not clever because they're redundant. But
yeah.
And there's a struggle there because it's like, I don't want someone with my body type to like read all those comments and like be offended. But to me, I think of those like trolls as like they don't know it, but they're spreading the message because unfortunately the way the algorithm works, it's like, you know, the more engagement, the more people see it. And so, but even with that, it's like every now and then somebody will message me and they're like, I love what you're doing. Like, please don't stop just because people are mean to you. And it's like, why would I stop just because people are mean to me? Like, that would be me being mean to me. Like, you know, and so I think on some level, just like seeing all those comments and like showing up the next day and doing my thing, like, but demonstrating that for people, like, okay, like people can have opinions of you. So what? like, all right, so, like, my niece is like, she's 10 and they're starting to get mean girl stuff. Like, it's like, yeah, it's like, oh, so-and-so did this, so-and-so did that. And I'm like, oh, okay, all right, I'm buckling in. Like, we're upper elementary and we're just gonna ride, I'm sure, all these fun interpersonal things through college, right? And it's like, okay, like, she can say that and you can still go do your life. Like, it doesn't matter, like, it's like, okay, thank y'all for spreading the word, but I'm still here. And I think there's power in demonstrating that for folks as well.
And I think what's cool about your story and what I like, one of the things I try to confirm is it's a process that starts with one step. And just because you start the process doesn't mean you have it all figured out and that the challenges go away. Like, you started belly dancing. And then you did the burlesque, and then you continue. Like, the voices don't go away. You do enough things, you validate that you can get to the next thing, and then next thing you know, you look back and you've developed this life, you've got these things that you've acquired, but you just didn't give up. You keep going. Because I have to be honest about the voice, because sometimes every now and then there is a voice in me that says, nobody's watching this shit, man. Why are you spending all of this time and research and care and following up? But that's the assignment for me. And despite the voices that creep, I have to recognize that that's just a part of the process too, just like all the other positive voices are a part of the process. It's my job to manage the volume of them both so that I can persist in spite of. And I have a lot of friends who struggle with the volume of the negative voice, and I understand what that means. And having somebody like you come on and seeing you and seeing, like, it's about freedom, it's about persisting. Like, you just be you, and then you actually being you that's the solution. And I it's why I wanted you to come on. It's why I wanted to talk to you and highlight your story and just say thank you, like, in person, for you choosing to do that. Because you can choose something else. People do it every day, but I'm glad that you chose and are choosing the path that you're continuing to choose. And it helps me continue to choose my path, because I get motivation from people like you who are choosing to do those things. I feel like you make shit happen.
I try to.
And I wanna take the vision that you have in your head and see if I can create it in mine. What would Chè Monique's world look like 20 years from now if all of her dreams came true?
Like, all of the dreams? Oh gosh. Probably, if all my dreams come true, my biggest struggle will be in letting go, because I'll have a lot of irons in the fire, but I would have a lot of competent people managing those things. And also, my inclination would want to be to get in there and be a part of it. And so my new self-talk dialogue would be like, so-and-so has this job because they're really good at it. They're actually better at it than you. So tell them they're doing great and go leave that alone. I want an island. There's so many islands for sale for like less than $1 million. And I'm like, why is there not a mermaid island? So I want an island that's like a chill resort, like not like a big built up, but just like a low key, like resort type place that has like a focus on mermaiding, but all our clothes are print on demand. And I would love to grow to a space where we have a US based print on demand place that like really does, really facilitates like entrepreneurs and starting their like businesses and their clothing lines, but also like pays the people printing and sewing well, and also is in like, you know, an area where people could use jobs because industries just disappeared. And I probably would want to hire people like, you know, with records or something like that. And so, yeah, so like our stuff would be made in-house, and we could then have definite like control over like size inclusivity and accessibility, because the amount of time I'm looking for like bigger sizes of X, Y, or Z, I can just make it. But I can just make it for other people and like help kind of incubate their businesses in ways. So that would be going on. I think Fat Mermaid wine should be a thing. Like, it just sounds cute. Like, can't you imagine like being in like Target or something and like seeing like a wine bottle and like a Fat Mermaid and being like, yeah, that's the one I want. So
I sure as shit can.
Right?
You know why? Because I got a fucking Snoop Dogg wine over there.
Right.
And if there can be a Snoop Dogg wine, why can't there be a Fat Mermaid wine?
Right. And so
Your face, right? Your body, you.
I mean, I guess one of them can be.
No, yeah, you're the face. Like I told you, I'm painting the picture. It's coming
together. Okay, I'm the face. Okay,
Because
sure.
I see these wines,
Well,
bottles.
I mean, there's a couple different wines. So
Okay,
there's
I got
a lot
you.
of different faces. And so definitely I want to make spaces for people to swim. There's not a lot of places where we can swim. There's this really cool quarry that's like it's like a park for divers, and the guy who owns it is like terrible. And it's like, it's not close. It's like 2 hours away. So it's like, it's not close anyway, but I like don't go because the guy is just like, he's not a good guy. And I'm like, well, we need to make a place where we can swim. And so I'm like, where's their land? And like in Virginia where there's land, it's like wine country. So I'm like, oh, well, okay. Well, we're going to have to like have a man-made lake quarry thing, and we can have a little vineyard. And again, it'll be like a small resort. Like it can be a place for like mermaids to come do their thing, but it can also just be like a place to come hang out. It'll be pretty. People can camp. There's a plot of land in South Carolina that I'm looking at. It's like right across the street from south of the border, which it is what it is, but it's definitely fading. And so I'm like, we can just, you know, people still got to stop on 95. And so it has a lake. And so I want to clean up that lake and like have it available for people to camp and swim. And like, I'm like, can put up like a rest stop food place that has like a roadside attraction mermaid show. And like, so those are some of the physical things I want. There'll be retreats like 20 years from now. I'd maybe like to do retreats quarterly. That feels like a fun pace, is quarterly retreats. And the Society of Fat Mermaids would of course have its own tail line. And I forgot like the thing, Vegas show, like underwater Vegas spectacular. My brother's like, there's not enough water in Vegas. So we'll have to figure that out, because I definitely don't want to like just drain the environment, but like Cirque du Soleil, underwater, synchronized swimmers, somehow like immersive kind of like, you know how when you're in the aquarium, you like walk through and people are swimming over you. So like, just like.
I think Cirque du Soleil did an underwater joint.
Yeah.
About 10 years ago or so, and built a tank or something out there for it.
Maybe it's still there, because.
Yeah, if I remember correctly.
Some mermaids in it. But yeah, I want like there on MerPeople, you'll see Circus Siren Pod go swim at the Silverton, which is the casino, but like they're not really. It's just like something going on in the casino. I want like a underwater spectacle.
You want to be the feature, like the reason why they're there, not the backdrop.
Yes, and I want it to be a thing you would get on a plane to go see. Like, I'm going to Vegas to see Usher. I'm going to Vegas to see like Mermaid Chè Monique and friends. Like, this is like a thing. And it also like I don't even know what it would take to like really choreograph it in a way, but that's the dream, is like this just like epic Vegas residency, really cool attraction.
I could see all of that.
Awesome.
I could see all of it. I could see the island for sure. I could see the wine for sure. I could see the Vegas show for sure. There's something about seeing mermaids that makes me feel like anything is possible. Just by seeing y'all like in the water and smiling, it's like magic is probably the word. It's magical, and I think the world needs more magic because it gives us an opportunity to test our boundaries, which are so limited oftentimes. And there's so much more possible than we give ourselves credit for. Now we think, and just seeing you or any mermaid for that matter, like in a tank, it's like, damn, that's possible? Yes.
But that's what I love about living now. Like, I'm so grateful because there's not too much I can think of that somebody can't make. And it's really cool to be able to Google and be like, oh, okay, there's a person who makes blah, blah, blah and such, you know, like, and just get it. Or somebody can 3D print it for me, or like, it's really cool. And I'm really grateful because a lot of things I do would have been harder, like much harder if I was trying to do them 15 years earlier. I mean, I just said, like, I wanted to start a clothing line and I found a place that's like, okay, we can print you Hawaiian shirts with whatever you want on it. Like, I don't have to sew. I don't have to have, you know, a minimum order of 500 shirts. Like, I can just like make one, you know, and it'll show right up at your doorstep. And, you know, like, that's really cool, but that hasn't always been. And I'm just really grateful to exist at a time where most things seem possible and attainable.
So tell me, so scale tights, that's what the things are called, tights?
Leggings.
Scale leggings.
Yeah. My husband calls them tights.
I'd be horrible with naming women's clothes and
It's
shit.
fine.
I just found out the difference between a blouse and a, anyway, so you got you said leggings?
Leggings.
Okay, the scale leggings, did you design those and the shirt?
So I like envision, but I don't design. I'm not a like pen to paper artist.
Gotcha.
So I like end up having things commissioned. So I really love the scales on these. So like I said, when I first started, we were t-shirts and leggings, and our leggings had like just interesting patterns on them. And then I was like, oh, like the actual like mermaid community wears a lot of mermaid scale leggings, which totally makes sense.
Totally.
And so like our first leggings I like had commissioned, and it was very much like, it was someone out of the community who was the artist. And so the scales were cute, but they were kind of like the curved, like half a C type scalloped kind of mermaid scale. And then as I kind of started paying more attention and getting more in the community, I'm like, oh, like the mermaid scales like are very realistic usually on like mer apparel that people are like in the community are into. And like once you're into it, like you can look at a legging and know if it's a mertail or a finfolk, like due to the shape of the scales. And so I was like, oh, we need our own scales for Society of Fat Mermaids. And so there's this really dope artist called Abby Tails. She designs tails and whatnot. And so she made us our scales, and it's weird because like they're all inspired by fish scales, but you still need it to be like unique. It's like, okay, like I want a scale that's more realistic, but I don't want finfolk scale. I don't want fin fun scale. I don't want mertailor scale. I want the Society of Fat Mermaids scale. So she designed these, and when she did this particular legging, she did like 7 different kind of skin tone leggings and patterns. So like if you're wearing this like under your tail or something, it kind of blends in, and I just treat it as like my neutral. And then our like kind of slogan is like fat mermaids make waves. And so I decided I wanted that embodied in fabric. And so I had a Nigerian designer do this. And I'm wearing like the pink and purple one just because I like pink and purple. There's like a blue and yellow one that's, I don't know, like I think it looks more oceany, you know, but we've got our fat mermaid, we've got like cowrie shells, and then like kind of waves throughout. And I dig it. It makes me like really happy that we've got this. And this is really a men's cut shirt. So it's like I wear them all the time, but there's like no good way for me to like wear it because like it's big enough for here. It's like way too big here. So I just kind of keep it open.
Where can people get your stuff? On your website?
Yep, at societyofatmermaids.com.
And are your pieces only for a specific
No,
size?
they're size inclusive. So
Okay.
like they're like from extra small to like 6XL. So
Okay.
which I really dig because you can like twin with your friends, you know, and that can be hard when like friends are different sizes. But yeah, our stuff's for everyone. Like we're called Society of Fat Mermaids, but we're very size inclusive.
Question for you.
Okay.
Almost missed this. So glad I didn't. The origin of mermaids.
The origin of mermaids.
Do you get into it to that deep?
Like kind of like I don't get in there as deep as other people. There's a really good podcast called the Merwomanist podcast. Dr. Jalandra Davis. Oh gosh. I think she is Jalandra Davis and then she's at UC somewhere. Like I'm struggling because there is a UC Davis and I'm like, no, Davis is her last name.
Yeah.
One at the University of California schools. But she has a podcast, the Merwomanist podcast, and she like goes deep into like African mer stories and like mythos and like just all sorts of stuff. Like it's a professor talking about mermaids, specifically usually black mermaids. It's great.
Because what I looked up was that they were angels or something and got cast down into the water, and the salt in the water is what keeps them locked in, and that's the reason where it comes from, the difference between holy water, and that that mermaids are actually cast down angels.
I don't know that one.
That was that rebelled against God or something.
I don't know that one. I like that one, but I don't know that one. I'm like, it's a good one. I don't know that one. And then you have like the Greek sirens, which were really birds, but then somehow became mermaids along the way through translation. Then you have the Mami Wata, who's West African, and Yamaya, who
she's in Orisha, right?
And she really gets a lot of credit for like protecting folks during the like transatlantic journey. And so there's a story for every culture.
I got you. Is there, to your knowledge, has there been any proof that mermaids were real?
To my knowledge, no.
You're supposed to say yes because you're looking at one.
I know.
Man.
I just
that was a softball.
I know, and I just like, cause like there's that like I can't lie. Like somewhere deep in me is this just like I can't just we're talking about the history and the science, but the party line is we've only explored 5% of the ocean, and so like. What's going on in the rest of those like deep hidden pockets of the ocean, we don't know. So
well, I'm glad that you and the other merfolk are out there exploring, spreading your love, spreading the positivity, and just being inspirations, and as we expand that 5% understanding of what's in the ocean, I have no doubt, I'm sure it's something down there.
I'm sure there's all sorts of stuff down there.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
I really appreciate it. See? Appreciate it. Best of luck to you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Peace.